Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the city council and city staff. Today is the city council meeting for July 10th, 2023. And let's hope that it goes well. I guess the first thing we will do is remind ourselves to turn off our phones or silence them, including myself. And then next thing, hi Gladys, we can see there. Land acknowledgement next, which is as we meet tonight, let's all remember that today we are stewards of land that's been home to indigenous people for thousands of years before us. And we honor this land's ancestors as we go about our business today. Also in tradition is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States, to the republic, which is one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Any agenda corrections?
We do not, no, we do not. We'll take a second though, just to mention that we have two interpreters here. Juan and Yeli are here. Should we have folks for public comments? So thankful that they've joined us here tonight.
You can translate me into English is fine too. That might. Buenas tardes. Gracias. Muchas gracias for being here. Awesome. Business from the audience. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak? No? Okie dokie. Anyone online, Jim? Okay. All right. The first thing we are going to do in city council is we are going to move to the urban renewal district. So we'll adjourn the city council meeting and open the urban renewal agency meeting for July 10th. Go figure. What a coincidence that is. Okay, and Christy and Heather, hi, thanks for joining. You can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right, hold on to your seatbelts. This is a long one. Is there anyone that has public comments for urban renewal agency? Seeing none and none online. Not seeing any shakes of head for that. Okay. First thing is staff, did you have anything additional? Okay, first thing is consent agenda approval of minutes from June 12th, 2023.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion from Grant.
I will second.
Oh, and a quick second from Megan. Any other discussion from those of you in Zoom land? Or here?
Not for me.
Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda, say yes.
Chapman,
Aye.
Gary,
Uh,
nine.
aye.
Any abstentions or noes? Okay, chair votes yes, so motion passes. Regular business items is a update on the west side and Ms. Elder.
Thank you. Thanks. We've been working on the West Side Plan for more than a year. It feels, funny, like you've seen me many times today. I'm just here to give you a very quick update on where we are. We're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern for the Urban Renewal Agency. There's not an action that I need from you today, but I thought I'd just give you a quick update of the things that are happening kind of behind the scenes right now. So the first one, of course, is that the super notice went out. As you all live in the city, likely received the notice that went to all property owners in the city and in the greater UGB. So in fact, I've heard from a number of people that they received 2 copies of that. So I would call that super notice. We received a couple phone calls. I don't know that the city, I'm looking at the city recorder because comments go to her, but I don't know that we've received any significant comments. I've gotten requests for the report. I've mailed out paper copies and then we've sent people the link. So folks are interested, but I've not received any significant comments from that. Of course, anything we collect would really be in advance of your public hearing, which we're anticipating will be August 14th.
So the 45 days runs out August 14th, is that?
That's when you hold your public hearing.
Okay,
So, and that would be the last minutes for public comments and stuff.
all right.
The taxing districts received their notice, I think went out the Friday after your last meeting. So I think that gets them to, it's like for the first week in August is where the 45 days come in. So all of the taxing districts have received their notice. They received a copy of the report and the draft plan and the report and a cover letter explaining how this all worked. They also received a report, you all received a copy of this as well, of what the impact of all the cities districts would be. So, you know, when Columbia Cascade closed, the anticipated closure of Waterfront, the starting of West Side, and then of course the continuing of the Heights until 2029. I think that's right. So they received an analysis that really showed them the whole picture, not just what West Side would mean, but what the whole urban renewal picture looks like for their districts. I received receipt from all of them, so I know they've all received it. There was one agency that I did go hand deliver it to them in the Dallas because I hadn't heard from them. So I know that every one of them has them. Their boards are probably reviewing or discussing this month. I will be at the port meeting tomorrow to answer any questions they might have. And I will be at the county commissioners meeting on the 17th. Not been asked to attend any others, but certainly open if they have any other thoughts or questions. So that piece is a significant piece that will be happening. Then also on Monday night, the 17th is Planning Commission. They have a specific role, which is to review the conformance with the plan. And so their piece will be done. I think that will go out probably Wednesday or Thursday this week. So the notice will go out and we'll include that packet for them. So I think those are all the pieces. One thing I heard from one of you was an interest in hearing a little bit more about the survey information that we received. This was presented to you very lightly at your last meeting, but I think discussion went on so long that I thought I'd share just a little bit more. We did an information session on May 23rd. We had, I think there were about 40 people signed up. I think we thought about 20 people were attended it live. It is available online, both in English and in Spanish, so folks are able to view it on our YouTube channel. We promoted that in the newsletter, the email newsletter, the website news. We sent a standalone email. We did it on Facebook, Instagram. Mayor and I talked about it on the Mark Bailey show. And then it was in the Columbia Gorge news. So tried to get out the word as best we can. We had afterwards, we had folks, we sent surveys to, again, kind of all those same things. We had 44 responses on the surveys. Mostly, I would say the thing we heard most loudly on the survey was support for a roundabout at Mount Adams and Cascade. So that came up over and over as a safety issue, as a way to slow down traffic that's coming off the exit, coming east, as a way to improve pedestrian and bicycle access. Other comments that came up were mostly supporting affordable housing or recognizing the need for it, but some comments about government should not be in the role of creating housing. So those comments were, there was more than one of those. Big support for sidewalks, pedestrian access, bike lanes, trails. Some mixed piece about parks, generally like supportive of parks, but not the highest priority. And then finally, I have to note that there were also several thank yous. Thank you for doing this. Thank you. This plan looks thoughtful. Thank you for, taking the future of our community seriously. So I think we got generally some positive comments, and I'd be happy to send all of you a copy of this. It's not that long. It's only 8 pages. So I will ask Jackie to send that to you tomorrow. With that, that's my check-in. When you have your August meeting, it'll be a much bigger meeting. We'll be talking about we'll have the public hearing for the West Side. We will have the due date for the taxing districts will have closed. And also bonus that date, I anticipate we'll be talking about the next report from the Heights. So that will be a long urban renewal meeting to make up for how short this one is today.
Which the URA meeting in August.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, any questions, comments, thoughts about West Side? Are we on the right track?
And we're still on schedule for getting it all buttoned up, but in time for, knock wood.
Yep, absolutely. We're
Any
feeling good about
comments?
it.
Anything? Megan?
I think it all sounds good. I guess, is there anything we can or should be doing to interface with the overlapping agencies in the next month? Or
Great. great question. I have repeatedly reached out to their administrators. Do you need anything? But you as electeds, it's always wonderful if you can have an elected to elected conversation as opposed to staff to elected. So if you know folks from those districts, or if I get some questions, I might come back to you and say, you know, so-and-so from this board would appreciate a conversation. And if I'm invited to more of the meetings, I'd be happy to have any of you join me. If anybody'd like to come to the port tomorrow, I'm not on the agenda. It's just there to answer questions. And then the county meeting on the 17th.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, please let us know.
Thank you.
Do we know when Parks is gonna have this on their agenda?
They meet the third Wednesday of the month at 5:30, so I assume that's when it will be, but I haven't heard anything from their director, Mark Hickok.
Anyone else in Zoom land?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Super.
Thank you.
Great. Can I give you one more urban renewal update while I'm here?
Yeah,
And
you
that-
hired someone.
Thanks. What?
You
Yeah,
hired
thanks.
somebody.
Wouldn't that be amazing? No, but that's exactly what I wanted to say is we have posted the first ever urban renewal position. We've posted for an administrator. I think it's going to be a super fun, exciting job. Willing to be a little bit flexible about working remote versus being on site, mostly because I don't have enough office space. I think is a good salary, and for the right person, it's going to be a really, really cool job. So it's on our website right now. Please share it with your networks and we'll go forward.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, the last thing on the agenda is just items from agency members, and we'll just go around the horn, and Gladys, you are first, if there's anything.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, Heather,
And nothing from me either. Thank you.
Christy,
I'm all good. I'll see you tomorrow and at the port meeting.
cool. Doug,
Nothing for me.
not here.
Nothing.
Nothing, thanks.
Okay, and I don't have anything clever to add, so that is that, and we are going to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Gladys, this doesn't get you off of the rest, but the other two of you are good to go. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Back to adjourning. That's adjourned, and we're back into the city council meeting. And business from audience is next, and we already did that, I guess. So I was so excited about it. I did it first. No presentations, no public hearings, consent agenda, schedule of building fees, rates and charges for, and we can do a resolution on consent agenda. Is that right?
I believe so. I'm
I
looking.
guess so.
Yes.
Any discussions?
I would move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Megan and a second from Gladys to approve the schedule of building fees, rates and charges for fiscal year 23-24, resolution 2023-13. Really, we can't skip 13?
It's the luckiest one.
Any other?
Great. I just had one comment about it, or not now, but in the future. The rates charged per increment of money as we go up the scale go less and less as we go up. So I don't know if we necessarily want to look at that or evaluate that in the future. But if we're going to incentivize development, for example, we may want to look at changing how that's structured at some point next time.
And I had a similar question. I don't know if we should make someone walk up to the dais. Just got us. Thanks, Justin. And my associated question is, would we have those discussions as part of it's now the super Uber rate table discussion that we do annually, right?
Yeah, in advance of that, I think would be probably the most appropriate. We'll have one billing cycle through tenure. We're going to see, we would want to look at it to say, all right, this is our current arrangement, especially with the county as contractor. Here's a full year billing cycle. here's what our exposure is to expense, and here's what our revenue is looking like, and how much, we'll have a little more sophisticated data of, are we cost recovering, what's our cost recovery goal? You know, when it comes to incentives or
Right.
non-incentives, do we, you know, is there a shift? Do we, you know, we'll have a lot more data to make an informed decision. We wouldn't adjust a number up or down
Right.
without some outcome, be it cost recovery, be it economic development, some purpose
Right.
behind it. So whether we're gonna subsidize permits that are cheaper, or, you know, make them pay the full freight, these are all policy discussions that we would want to have with you in advance of really your main hearing, or your, call it FY 24-25.
Right. So sometime in Q1, we have that discussion, and then then the results of that are, I think it's late Q1 is, Chris, do you remember?
But, yeah. I believe it was first resolution of the year.
Tim?
I'd also, you know, as we start to experience more wildfires and wood smoke associated with the wildfires, I think I'd like to reiterate that we should consider not permitting any more wood stoves as part of new development. There's going to be a ton of houses that are probably going to go up. So I'm just reiterating that.
Yeah, so that would end up in a local amendment for building codes. And there would be, this would be, and a resulting fee that would most likely be eliminated just from the schedule of these.
Thanks, Tim. Anything else? Gladys, don't want to forget about.
No, can I just ask that you all maybe talk a little more into your mics? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sure. Okay. Just go like this, yeah. Okay, I think, thank you very much. I think that's that. We have a motion, we have a second. Thank you, thank you, Grant. Grant's even less impatient, more impatient than me. With that discussion and the motion second, everyone in favor of the motion, say yes.
Aye.
Any noes? Mark votes yes as well, so the motion carries. The next thing, Abigail? Right.
Thank you, Councilor Zandmiller, Council President Zandmiller. This is an action item asking for you to ratify the emergency declaration that I did on July 3rd in consultation with the mayor. As you know, earlier in the month, things had looked fairly calm, but then things developed rapidly on the 2nd and 3rd of July, and chose to ban the use of fireworks, and I think not the sale of fireworks, because we're concerned, I think as the city attorney explained, that could be seen as a taking at that last minute notice. So what you have before you is a resolution for consideration, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anything that we want to chat about before there's a motion? Go ahead, Megan.
Well, one, I want to thank you and the mayor for the quick response. I think it was the right call, given what's going on in the community. And then I don't think for tonight, but I did just want to put it out there of, given climate change, and we're clearly going to continue to have warmer and drier and earlier summers and fire seasons, I guess I'd like to maybe put it on the docket for some future thing of having a conversation of either clear trigger mechanisms for when we, move the ban earlier in the year, or potentially just expanding the ban into a larger time frame. But I think it's worth a conversation.
Yeah,
I agree.
Doug?
I also agree. I think it would be personally good to talk about an all right ban during the summer months.
I guess asking staff to find a time prior to the.
Am I hearing a consensus that we should work on that and bring that back as a future item, maybe in September? August is looking kind of busy for you.
Well, I think the window only opens again next
Right.
middle of June. So, Grant? Nothing.
I concur.
Okay, all right.
Great.
And Gladys?
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. It's better for us to be proactive versus reactive and maybe having an intentional discussion at the beginning of June of this next coming year.
Cool. There's a motion to pass the resolution.
I move to adopt resolution 2023-12, ratifying the city manager's July 3rd emergency declaration. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Grant, and a second from Tim. All in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Any noes? Mark votes yes, so the resolution carries. All right, taxi cabs.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've had in council call, there have been a couple conversations about taxi cabs and an interest in what it would look like if ride share programs were able to operate here in Hood River. Dan and I had a conversation yesterday. We spent a little time just kind of reviewing the code. Thought we'd share a little bit about that, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts on if this is something you want us to dive into more deeply, and in any public engagement efforts you might wish to see. So I'll count on Dan to back me up here and jump in as needed. Dan made a really important comment to me yesterday, which was, I think this code was written in the 70s. It was updated, I think, into the 80s. Once in 1998, and then most recently in 2005. So with the exception of changing the taxi cab rates, which you do kind of every year, this has not been touched in a really long time. So it's really due for a good review. As Dan and I looked at it, there are some items here that would need to be changed. For example, right now, the police chief has to authorize the background check. That's probably not going to work for a big multinational company. Some of the insurance requirements. And then there are some things missing. We don't address ADA issues in this, the accessibility. There might be other pieces that you would want to see. So I think Dan and our recommendation to you would be, if you want to do this, we would recommend really kind of taking what we have and using some model code that has been successfully used in other cities. I think Bend was probably the first, and I don't remember what year, but at least 5, 6, 7 years.
2017.
Thanks, Dan. 2017, that Bend code has now been used by Redmond, I think Lincoln City, most recently Newport just passed regulations this spring. So we would probably recommend bringing to you a model code based on those cities for your review and recommendation. I'm seeing nodding heads.
Is there a scope of work? Like, is this is outside the work plan?
It is, yeah.
So is it a work plan discussion thing, or is it?
I don't know, Dan, do you have a sense of how heavy a lift this would be? I think the code piece is actually fairly simple in that we would want to use code that has been adopted by other cities. We would bring that to you for your review. That part's pretty easy.
Right. In the spirit of not wanting to be the first to do this, I think there are 53 other cities in Oregon that allow the called transportation network companies. You need to first of all learn the lingo. TNCs is what we're talking about. Transportation network companies.
So I think that piece feels pretty straightforward, and we could prepare something for your review in the next couple of weeks. I think the bigger question first would be, we can create the code. That does not mean they're going to come. As you know, I have tried to reach out to, had one little nibble from Lyft, but no other emails, no response from anybody at Uber. So I don't know that there's a lot that we as city staff can do to actually entice any kind of rideshare group here.
I would prefer that we have code that's written so that we're not creating unintentional consequences, right? Or unintentional barriers. And then, yes, would welcome any additional transportation partners to hopefully come to Hood River and give additional options for safety concerns. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that let's just do a quick thumbs up if we're interested in doing this, irrespective of the prioritization of it to begin with.
I'm seeing it.
Okay,
Yes, for
so
me.
we have consensus to have nice, clean, modern code. That's good. Any comments on prioritization and how we get to that? Doug?
Well, it is, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Then
I think
Gladys.
This is just, it's sort of something that was not necessarily on our radar that has been escalated. Regarding, the work plan, et cetera. I think waiting for a few years or a couple of years, since we have a 2-year work plan now to sort of prioritize this would be in light of all the information we've had about DUIs and, sort of interest from even the district attorney, receive, funding for DUIs to process them, et cetera. I think, and based on what I've heard from the community, it seems to be something that necessarily wasn't on our radar, but has been elevated.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so not the next work plan,
Right.
but, okay, Tim?
So I guess the assumption here is that the demand is greater than the supply, right?
Mhm.
So is,
The demand for taxi cab rides.
right.
We're not sure. We've not done that kind of research. And so that's my question for you. Finally is, what information would you need us to bring you in order to make a decision?
Right.
And that's my question in the little piece here, is about what kind of public engagement might need to happen. And some of that might be, I don't know if we have a way to figure out what customer.
Yeah,
demand
I don't
is.
know
My assumption
either.
that it's there.
Gladys, to you first. I know you had a thing.
Yeah, I just think that this helps. It is in our council plan to support diverse transportation options as well, and this is one of those. And again, if there's unintentional barriers in our policy that prevents companies from establishing, then we should do something about it. And if it isn't going to take a lot of Dan's time or Abigail's time to just ensure that the policy is up to date, then the goal is that, yes, we figure out what is our intention moving forward. Now we have the policy that allows for that to happen. And hopefully we can have additional transportation partners that want to come to the area.
Right, and I'll just jump in that I can completely agree that our job is to reduce barriers, and then it's not to give people rights.
Right.
Yes.
We do have some services though, right?
Right. We currently have 3 taxi cab companies. I believe that's, yeah.
Is there any potential for unintended consequences?
There might be. So we have not done any public engagement on this. And so that's part of what I wanted to ask you today is, what would you like to see? Is that the general public, you are also always engaging with public, and you've definitely heard from some folks. Is there, I think probably Visit Hood River, Downtown Association, for sure, our 3 taxi cab companies in town are the people we'd want to connect with. Would you like to see something more than that, or other groups, or again, what information would you need in order to make a decision?
Any thoughts, Megan, or anything? I think we're about to okay, how do we answer that question, and where does it sit on the priority list?
So there's a couple different questions in there, but I think like if it's a fairly quick surgical replace the chapter to just get language that isn't a barrier, that feels like something I'd like to see. Hoping it's not bumping anything major off the list, but is like something we could do in this year. I think that there's a larger conversation of how do we entice people, or how do we make other options. That feels like a much bigger project that I would want to have a larger conversation about where it fits in the priority list. As for outreach, I think it's great to talk to people and hear from other communities what unintended consequences there have been. It's hard to feel like based on feedback we've been hearing that continuing to not allow it is really going to be the right answer, and no matter what the feedback is, I guess. But
So more of an information as opposed to getting more data from people, just informing people as opposed to consulting, or
potentially, yeah, I guess.
Would you like to know if we aren't necessarily doing the background checks, what are the TNC's background processes to make sure the drivers are safe, legal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If they have particular vehicle standards, as most taxi companies have vehicle standards, what those would be. If somebody, for example, is driving around their personal car, but a seatbelt doesn't work, that could be a problem. Those sort of minimum requirements that are effectuated by these TNCs would be helpful to know, and those back-end processes to make sure that if we are authorizing these uses, that it's safe for public consumption.
Great.
So I'm hearing interest
Mhm.
for maybe for staff to define. Oh, Gladys.
Got a
Thank you.
suggested motion for you as well.
Yeah, and I would also, part of the larger discussion, welcome CAT and MCED as the largest transportation partners in the area. Again, if the provisions are up to date, then maybe that would allow for them to have more transportation options that we may not know about. You know, I think it was brought up earlier that I don't necessarily think it's the city's responsibility to start a transportation business, but we should definitely rely on our partners that are already doing this work and seeing if there's any other ways that we could add additional transportation options.
Yeah, reducing barriers and being partner friendly. I think those are the things that I keep hearing.
Yeah, and I recall it was part of, I want to say that when Amy came to present about CAT, that's within their vision to have, you know, options along those lines later in the evening hours.
Yeah, and even if that's true, us just making sure we don't have code that's blocking them from doing some service that we would all like them to do. So that's right on. So I think it feels clear to me, like,
Great.
please come back to us with here's when staff could get to it and without breaking all the other strings, right?
That's great. That works. Otherwise, I put a proposed motion on the memo.
And I also request that we reach out to the existing taxi companies.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Let
All
them-
right, I move that we direct staff to prepare a report with draft modifications to the Hood River Municipal Code regarding vehicles that carry passengers for hire to facilitate rideshare services in Hood River.
I will second.
All right, thank you, Gladys. And Doug with a second. Everyone that agrees with that, say yes.
Aye.
Any no's? Hearing none, Mark votes yes as well. So please make something nice. That'll be good.
Excellent. Thank you for that direction.
Will do.
Okay, city recorder, I don't think there's anything. City manager, there's at least one introduction on it.
It's at least one more. Yes, thank you. Council, it's my pleasure to introduce to you John Weaver, our new city engineer. John, will you come up here to the microphone? And I didn't tell him that.
It's traditional to recite a poem of some sort.
It was.
John comes to us from upstate New York, where he is, he's had a number of titles: civil engineer, public works director, I think most recently transportation engineer. I might have this wrong. He's got a long list.
Got a whole lot.
And he's also has a lot of, he's also worked for a number of agencies and municipalities in Florida, so he has a lot of Florida stories as well. So John's been here 3 weeks, 4 weeks now.
Yeah, on Wednesday will be 30 days.
Excellent. So super happy that he's here. So any more thing, more things on?
No, any questions for me? I'll be happy to answer.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Agreed, welcome.
Thank you.
Definitely introduce you to some other upstate New Yorkers that live in Hood River, including one of our planning commissioners.
It's great. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
I don't think I have anything else for you right now. What'd you say? So we have the puncture vine pulls coming up. All right, I'm missing. Oh, I see. I got what you said. Dustin, can I call on you to share some good news about the 780 Rand Road project? Thank you. How could I forget this? I love Doug's. Thank you, Councilor Stupina, for the charade page.
You're welcome.
So, on Friday, Oregon Housing Community Service Board voted to fund in part the city's grant request for 780 Rand Road. So at this point, we believe we have access to $15 million in reconstruction funds, with more to come on the way. The city scored third out of all the requests. We were the largest request, the largest number of units, and I believe the most expensive project granted. So we're excited. It's a huge opportunity, a lot of work, a lot of people, a lot of local investment on the city in terms of finance, just energy all around. So this is pretty big. It's kind of a big deal for your low key meeting. So we're excited to hear this. We will get some more information soon and be ready to post up some successful notices. So congratulations to John.
Thank you. No other updates from the city manager.
Right. Council comments. Oh, committee reports. All right, let's go around. Doug.
I haven't had one.
Yep.
Nothing for me.
Nothing.
Grant, you always have committee reports.
No, I don't. I'm got a Zoom call tomorrow to organize the regional transportation committee thing tomorrow. So that's going to happen in August 7th here. And we're gonna go apparently tour the new Mitchell Point tunnels and do a couple other things around town. So
Gladys.
Nothing from me, thank you.
All right. Now council comments, and let's start with you, Gladys.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, Grant.
ta-da.
Megan.
Mark and I'm gonna do it for you, joined Abigail and some folks from Public Works down at First Friday, which was very fun. Lots of good community people out there. And I did want to do a big thanks to the Public Works folks for being out there and bringing out the fun trucks. And then there's a puncture line pulling party this Saturday, 9 to 11. Okay. That I will also be at.
On Thursday.
Well, mine's on Saturday.
Oh.
Okay.
This Thursday?
Yeah.
So community, you should come out.
Doug was a walk-on counselor, even came equipped with his name badge. It was well done. Tim?
I guess I have a request that we could, maybe we can have an update on the downtown LID project at some point in time. It's been a long time since we've talked about that. I know that there was presentations last fall. Is it last fall already? By Jody and Wade.
Oh, right.
The stormwater project.
This storm.
Yes. Yeah, I think
So that'd be great.
with our new city engineer, we're gonna get that back on track.
Yeah,
We'll make sure to get
maybe,
that.
I don't know who's in charge of it now, but maybe some type of presentation. from
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess, again, a note that to be safe with fire, obviously, and a big thank you also to the firefighters that did a really bang up job. It was totally impressive to knock that fire down with the wind and the dryness. So, yeah, it was just something to do that. I mean, I just can't imagine how difficult that was, but they did an excellent job. Knowing people over on that side of the river that some of whom lost structures, some of whom were in danger of losing their structures. Yeah. It gets back to the fireworks thing. And, you know, by the time something starts on fire, it's too late. So better to be proactive about that stuff. But again, you know, just for me, it brings home that the whole climate issue is something that we need to keep front and center in our minds, because it's just, I mean, we're just living it real time. So that's what I got.
I did the Sabados con Nubia program on Saturday. It was really, really nice. One thing we talked about was interpreters. I was so happy to see interpreters here today in swift action. So thank you for staff, to staff for doing that. Really look forward to seeing that as something that we continue going forward. And that's it for me.
Cool. I too like that we organize the interpreters and one of these times it'll line up with a room full of people again and that'll be great. The thing I wanted to ask is people will ask me like, what's going on with the River City building and what's going on with, these things. And I feel sort of like a dummy because I'm a dummy and I don't have answers. And so I'm wondering if there isn't a keeping council abreast of what things aren't officially in the system yet, but are bubbling and people are hearing about it. So, that would be useful. I don't really know. I don't have a scope of that request, but whether it's just a little spreadsheet that you guys already keep, that would be ideal, but it would be sort of nice if such a thing could exist. So
Thank you for that. If I could comment, thank you for that. I think Dustin and I had a conversation about that recently. I think one of you had brought that up to me. And so we talked about what some options might be. My understanding is you used to have a whiteboard that everybody would stop in and look at his office. And that was how you kept track. But I don't think that whiteboard is, I think it's got permanent ink on it. So it hasn't been updated for a while, but we can talk about ways to keep you informed in that really informal way.
And in no way does this ask for a whole other report and bunch of hours, just sort of a minimize surprises. I guess that's okay. I think that's everybody on council comments. We are going to executive session. And I have a little thing to read. City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 192.660 sub 1 sub H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. And Oregon Revised Statute 192.660-1-E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room and we will end the public broadcast. Representations of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made nor final action taken in executive session. The executive session is anticipated to last more than 5 minutes. What do we think?
I'd say a good hour.
Hour.
Yeah, you're here a long time.
At the end of which the executive session, the city council meeting will be adjourned and no action will be taken. We will now discontinue the live feed and recording. Council may choose to allow other. Oh, is there anyone else we want to keep in? Nope. Okay. Well, that's the legal bits. So if anyone. Thank you. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mr. Yang. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Let me do a couple things and then Manuel, you're on, you can leave the meeting now for executive session.